Good morning. Today we will discuss about the Pharmacy Act 1948, the act which regulates our profession, the pharmacy profession. Now, the Pharmacy Act, you know that when we have studied the history of pharmaceutical legislation, we have discussed that during our pre-independence period, when there was no pharmaceutical legislation, no control over drugs and as well as the pharmacy profession, at that time Government of India had established a committee, the Drugs Inquiry Committee, under the chairmanship of Dr. R.N. Chopra. That Chopra committee, when submitted its recommendation, in the recommendation it was mentioned that a separate or as a combined act, the Pharmacy Act has to be enacted by the Government of India for regulation of the pharmacy profession. As such, at that time there was nothing as pharmacy profession. Anybody without having any background, without having any qualification, any knowledge about the drugs and pharmaceuticals can engage in the distribution, dispensing of medicines, manufacturing of medicines, and all over the field it was controlled by the quacks. So it was there in the recommendation of the Chopra committee. Moreover, when in 1943 the Vore committee was established, that is the Health Survey and Development Committee, that committee also in its report in 1946 recommended that the Pharmacy Act has to be enacted for the regulation and control over the pharmacy profession. Accordingly, the Pharmacy Bill was made and ultimately the Pharmacy Act 1948 was enacted. Now, in India there was no restriction to practice the profession of pharmacy. One could practice this profession as any other profession. Persons having no knowledge and having no education in pharmacy or pharmaceutical chemistry or pharmacology were engaged in this profession. Hundreds of cases were brought to the notice of the government wherein the compounding, mixing, dispensing of medicines was being done by persons who were not educated in this line. And the system was causing great harm to the health of the people, and it was found necessary to enact a law for the regulation of the profession and practice of pharmacy. And to achieve this goal, the Pharmacy Bill 1947 was introduced in the legislature, and this bill was the outcome of the recommendations which I have just told you of the Drugs Inquiry Committee, that is the Chopra Committee, as well as the Health Survey and Development Committee or Vore Committee. This Pharmacy Bill 1947, having been passed by the legislatives, received its assent on 4th March 1948 and came on the statute book as the Pharmacy Act 1948. Now, first we just look into the structure of the Act. The entire Act has been divided into 5 chapters. Chapter 1, and there is actually 46 sections. It has 5 chapters. It has been divided into 5 chapters, and all including there are 46 sections. Now chapter 1 is the introductory chapter, It has only two sections. Section 1, which contains the short title, extent and commencement. The title is the Pharmacy Act 1948, and it is extended, now it is extended to the whole of India. Section 2 gives some interpretation or definitions of some terminologies. Chapter 2, its name is the Pharmacy Council of India, the main organ to control and regulate the pharmacy profession in India. The Pharmacy Council of India, or commonly we call it the PCI, its constitution and composition is given in section 3. Its incorporation of Central Council is provided in section 4. President and Vice President of Central Council has been described under section 5 of this Act. The mode of election, how these elections are being conducted for election of members into the Central Council, that has been described under section 6. Term of office of the members for filling up of the casual vacancies has been described in section 7. Section 8 describes about the staff remuneration and allowances. Section 9 provides the formation and the function of the executive committee. Section 9A provides about other committees if required for their formation and all these things. Section 10, very important section, it describes the education regulation, how it has to be formed and all these things. Section 11 gives application of education regulation to states, how it has been applied to the states. Section 12, another very important section, how this PCI or the Central Council of the PCI approved courses and examinations for pharmacy education. Section 13 empowers the Central Council of the Pharmacy Council of India to withdraw the approval. Section 14 empowers the Pharmacy Council to approve the qualifications granted for outside India for registration as pharmacists in India. Section 15 gives the mode of declarations. Section 15A provides about the central register of the pharmacists. Section 15B gives the registration in the central register, how new registrations which are getting from the states are being entered into the central register. That procedure has been described under section 15B. Section 16 gives the methodology of inspections. Section 17 gives the informations, what informations are to be furnished. 17A about accounts and audit of the Pharmacy Council of India, and 18 gives the power to the Pharmacy Council of India to make regulations for its own management and own functioning. Chapter 3, it is the state pharmacy councils and joint state pharmacy councils. These things are described under chapter 3. So section 19 gives the constitution and composition of state council. Important section. In different states there are state pharmacy councils, how it has been constituted and what is its composition, that has been described under section 19. Section 20 is another important section. It provides the method of agreement between different states, 2 or more states, for formation of joint state pharmacy councils. Section 21 provides the composition of the joint state pharmacy council. Section 22 gives the incorporation of these state councils. Section 23, it gives the president and vice president of state councils. Section 24 provides the mode of elections for the state councils. 25 gives the term of office and casual vacancies about the members of the state council and joint state councils. 26 gives the staff's remuneration and allowances. 26A, methodology of inspections by the inspectors of the state councils. 27, about the formation and function of the executive committee of the state councils. Section 28 gives the informations to be furnished. This is all about chapter 3. So chapter 4 is providing registration of pharmacists, how registrations of pharmacists are done. Section 29 provides the preparation and maintenance of register. Section 30, preparation of first register. Section 31, it gives the qualifications for entry in the first register. First register means it is the before the formation of the state council by the registration tribunal, the first registers are being made. Section 32 gives the qualification for subsequent registration, and 32A, it is a special provision for registration of certain persons, certain category of persons, how their names will be registered. That methods are being provided under section 32A, and 32B, which is being incorporated in amended by amendment of 1976. Here, special provision for registration of displaced persons, repatriates and other persons is being provided, especially the persons who came into India from Myanmar, Burma, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Pakistan. How the persons who are engaged there in the profession of pharmacy, how their name will be registered, that methods are being provided under section 32B. Section 33 is the scrutiny of applications for registration. 34 gives renewal fees. 35 provides the entry of additional qualifications, how the registered pharmacists can enter their subsequent additional qualifications. That methods are provided under section 35. Section 36 provides how the name of a pharmacist are being removed from the register. Section 37, restoration of the name of the pharmacist registered persons into the register. And section 38 gives bar of other jurisdiction. Section 39, issue of duplicate certificate of registration. So section 38 is the bar of other jurisdiction, means if the central council or state council, especially in case of registration, state council is empowered, state council decides that one person will not be registered as a registered pharmacist, then that is not challengeable in any other court of law. Only that order can be, only appeal can be made to the state government by the person concerned, but other jurisdictions are being barred here under section 38. Section 39, it provides the issue of duplicate certificate of registration by the state councils. Section 40, providing printing of registers, how the registers by the states will be printed and evidentiary value of entries. Now the last chapter, that is the chapter 5 or miscellaneous chapter. This chapter has 6 sections, 41 to 46. Section 41 provides penalty for falsely claiming to be registered. If any person claims falsely that he is a registered pharmacist, his penalty has been described under section 41. Section 42, it is also penal provision for dispensing by unregistered persons. Section 43, another penal provision for failure to surrender registration certificate. Section 44, it is the methods of payment of part of the fees by the central council to state by the state council to central council. Payment of part of fees to central council, that methods are described under section 44. Section 45 gives appointment of commission of inquiry, and section 46, the power to make rules. This section 46 empowers the state councils to make rules for their purposes, their functioning, their inspection, their accounts audit, their qualification for staffs, inspectors, registrar, etc. On various topics, they can make rules, and that rule making power is given under section 46. This is all about the structure of the Pharmacy Act 1948. Now, what is the object of the Act? This Act is passed with the following objectives: to make better provisions for regulating the profession and practice of pharmacy. So, the Pharmacy Act, its main objective is to make better provisions for regulating the profession and the practice of pharmacy. Second, to raise the status of profession of pharmacy. Third, to constitute Pharmacy Council of India for setting new standards in pharmacy education. 4. To regulate pharmacy institutions by inspections and different methods to regulate pharmacy institutions. 5. To constitute state pharmacy councils for registration of pharmacists. And 6. To regulate the activities of the pharmacists. These are the objectives of the Act. Now, the Pharmacy Council of India. The Pharmacy Council of India, or the PCI, is constituted under Section 3 of the Pharmacy Act 1948. The first Pharmacy Council of India was constituted in 1949, and it is reconstituted every 5 years. So its duration is 5 years, and it consists of the following members. 3 categories of members are there in the PCI. One is the elected members. Now, 6 members elected by the University Grants Commission from among teachers working in Indian university or college which grants degree or diploma in pharmacy. Among them, there should be at least one teacher of each of the subjects: pharmaceutical chemistry, pharmacy, pharmacology and pharmacognosy. So, one teacher from each of the subjects, one from pharmaceutical chemistry, one teacher of pharmacy, one teacher of pharmacology and one teacher of pharmacognosy out of the 6 members must be there, and the 6 members elected by UGC from among the teachers. Second kind of elected members is that one member elected from amongst themselves by the members of the Medical Council of India. So MCI, Medical Council of India, it elect one of its members, and that member become the member of the Pharmacy Council of India. One registered pharmacist to represent each state elected from amongst themselves by members of each state council. That means each state pharmacy council. From each state pharmacy council, one registered pharmacist to represent each state elected, and he became the member of the Pharmacy Council of India. So these are the elected members of the PCI. Second kind of members are nominated members. 6 members are nominated by the central government, of whom at least 4 shall be possessing a degree or a diploma in pharmacy, and they are in practice of pharmacy or pharmaceutical chemistry. One representative of the University Grants Commission, he is also coming as nominated members in the PCI. One representative is coming from one representative of the AICTE, become the member of the PCI. One registered pharmacist to represent each state nominated by the state government. So from each state government, one registered pharmacist is being nominated to become the member of the PCI. This is about the nominated members in the PCI. Next is the ex officio members. 3 ex officio members are there in the PCI. One is the Director General of Health Services, the Drugs Controller General of India, and the Director of the Central Drugs Laboratory. They are the ex officio members. This is all about the members of the PCI. Now, PCI is a corporate body and having perpetual succession. The President and Vice President of the Central Council shall be elected by the members of the PCI among themselves, and subject to their membership, the President and Vice President shall usually hold office for 5 years. However, they can resign earlier, and if any elected or nominated member remains absent without sufficient reasons for 3 consecutive meetings, he is deemed to have vacated his seat, and casual vacancies are filled only for the remainder term. All members are eligible for re-election or re-nomination. Now the Executive Committee. The Central Council shall constitute Executive Committee as under President and President of the Central Council. He becomes the ex officio member of the Executive Committee, and who shall be the chairman of the Executive Committee. Vice President of Central Council is also ex officio member of the Executive Committee. Other than these two, President and Vice President, 5 other members are elected by the Central Council amongst its members for Executive Committee. So the Executive Committee has total 7 members. The Executive Committee shall exercise such powers and discharge such duties as may be prescribed. Now, functions of Pharmacy Council of India. Its function is to regulate pharmacy institutions, especially diploma in pharmacy through education regulations, to frame periodically education regulations with approval of the central government for setting new standards in pharmacy education, to approve or disapprove courses of study and examinations in pharmacy, to recognize foreign qualifications in pharmacy for purposes of registration, and to maintain central register of pharmacists. These 5 are the main functions of PCI. Now, education regulation. The most important function of PCI, education regulation. Under Section 10 of the Pharmacy Act 1948, the Pharmacy Council of India is empowered to frame education regulations after approval of the central government. And the education regulations prescribe minimum standards of education for pharmacists, which include qualification for pharmacists, minimum qualification for admission to first year diploma in pharmacy, nature of course of study and its duration, approval of institutions conducting courses of studies, scheme and mode of examinations, approval of examinations, eligibility for appearing at the Part 1 and Part 2 examinations of diploma in pharmacy, periods and other conditions of practical training, equipments and facilities to be provided by the institutions running approved course of study, conditions to be fulfilled by the examining authority, conditions to be fulfilled by the institutions for giving practical training. These are the regulations for education of pharmacists. Now, procedure for framing education regulations. How these education regulations are being framed by the Pharmacy Council of India. For regulation and control of pharmacy institutions, Section 10 of the Act describes the method for framing education regulations. The Central Council, with approval of the central government, makes the education regulation first, but before submitting it to the central government, PCI forward copies of this draft of education regulation to all the state governments. The state governments are required to send their comments within 3 months to the PCI. After considering the comments of the state governments, the Central Council shall submit the draft education regulation to the central government for approval. And after getting the approval of the central government, the education regulations are published in the official gazette. This is the method of framing of education regulation. Now, the efficacy of the education regulation shall be reported to the Central Council by the Executive Council, and Executive Council also may propose amendment therein. Same procedure is followed for effecting amendment in the education regulations. Now, application of education regulation to the states. Any time after constitution of the State Council, with due consultation of State Council, state government may apply education regulation to the state by notification in the official gazette of that particular state. So each state, after discussing, after consultation with the State Council concerned, any time after constitution of its State Council, may apply education regulation to the state. And for application, the state government has to publish this education regulation by notification in the official gazette. Otherwise, if it has not been done by the state government, the education regulations become effective in the state after 3 years from the date of constitution of state councils. Now, State Pharmacy Council, that is under chapter 3 now. Now, section 19 of the Act provides for constitution as well as composition of state council. Every state government has to constitute state council accordingly, which consists of the following members. It, like PCI, Pharmacy Council of India, the State Pharmacy Councils also has 3 kind of members: elected members, nominated members, and ex officio members. In the State Council, there are elected members. There are 6 members elected from among themselves by registered pharmacists of the state, and 1 member elected by the State Medical Council from amongst its members. Then nominated members, 5 members are being nominated by the state government concerned, of whom at least 3 should possess degree or diploma in pharmacy and or pharmaceutical chemistry, or should be registered pharmacists. So out of these 5 members, 3 must possess degree or diploma in pharmacy, or they must be a registered pharmacist. Now, ex officio members, they are like Pharmacy Council of India. In state pharmacy councils also 3 ex officio members are there. 1, the Chief Administrative Medical Officer of the state. Number 2, the officer in charge of the Drugs Control Department of the state. And number 3, the government analyst deputed by the state government. These 3 are the ex officio members of the state councils. Now, the President and Vice President of the State Council shall be elected by the members from amongst themselves, and subject to membership, they hold office for 5 years, like Pharmacy Council, like Central Council of the Pharmacy Council of India. And this President and Vice Presidents are also eligible for re-election. Elected and nominated members shall hold office for 5 years. However, they may in writing resign at any time. And if any nominated or elected member remains absent without sufficient reasons for 3 consecutive meetings, he is deemed to have vacated his seat. Casual vacancies are filled only for the remainder term by fresh nomination or elections, as the case may be. Joint State Pharmacy Council is a special type of pharmacy council, and section 20 of the Act provides for an agreement between 2 or more states for constitution of joint state councils. Composition of this joint state council is stated under section 21 as follows. It also has 3 kinds of members: elected members, nominated members, and ex officio members. Elected members. In joint state council, 3 to 5 members elected from amongst themselves by registered pharmacists of each participating states. So, depending on the number of participating states, the number of members will be decided. 1 member elected from amongst themselves by the members of each medical council of participating states. Nominated members, 2 to 4 members nominated by each of the participating state government, of whom at least half should possess degree or diploma in pharmacy or pharmaceutical chemistry, or should be registered pharmacist. Ex officio members, 3, the Chief Administrative Medical Officer of each participating states. So if there are 3 participating states, then 3 Chief Administrative Medical Officer will be the member of the Joint State Pharmacy Council. Similarly, the officer in charge of Drugs Control Department of each participating states and the government analyst of each participating states deputed by the concerned state government, they are the ex officio members of the Joint State Pharmacy Council. In Joint State Pharmacy Councils also, President and Vice President shall be elected by the members from amongst themselves. Subject to membership, they hold office for 5 years and are eligible for re-election. Similarly, elected and nominated members, they also hold office for 5 years. However, they may resign anytime in writing. If any elected nominated members remains absent without sufficient reasons for 3 consecutive meetings, he is deemed to have vacated his seat, and casual vacancies are filled only for the remaining term by fresh nomination or election, as the case may be. Functions of the state or joint state pharmacy councils. The state and the joint state pharmacy councils are entrusted with the following functions. Very important function, number 1, that is the registration of pharmacies and maintenance of registers of state. Number 2, removal of names of registered pharmacists from the register. Number 3, printing of registers of the state, and number 4, to monitor and regulate professional activities of pharmacists of the state. So these are the functions of the state pharmacy councils. Registration of pharmacists is how being done. The Pharmacy Act provides for the registration of pharmacists, and that method has been provided under chapter 4. So now we are entering into chapter 4 of this act. The Pharmacy Act provides for the registration of pharmacists to regulate the entry of persons in the pharmacy profession, and that is very important function, and this function is being done by the state or the joint state councils. Only persons having requisite qualification, training and experience are allowed to enter into the profession. Names of registered pharmacists are entered in the registers maintained by the state councils and the central council. The register includes the following particulars: full name and residential address of the registered pharmacist, date of first admission to the register, qualification for registration, professional address, that is the name of the employer if employed, and such other particulars as may be prescribed. Now the first register. What is the first register? For preparation of the first register, the state government constitutes a registration tribunal by notification in the official gazette, and the tribunal consists of 3 persons and a registrar. The registrar acts as the secretary of the tribunal. The state government by notification specify the date for submission of application for registration. So first registers are being made before formation of the state councils. Here the registration tribunal is empowered to register the names of the applicants after examination of their applications. The application for registration along with prescribed fees should be made on or before this date as has been prescribed to the registration tribunal, and the registration tribunal examines the application so received. Names of applicants found to be qualified for registration then entered onto the register. The first register so prepared is published in the manner prescribed by the state government. Any person aggrieved by the decision of the tribunal may appeal within 60 days from the date of such publication to the authority appointed by the state government in this behalf. According to the decision of such authority, the register shall be amended. Certificates of registration are issued to the by the registrar to every person whose name is entered into the register, and after constitution of the state council, this first register is handed over into the custody of the state councils. Now, qualifications for entry on first register. A person above 18 years who resides or carries on business or profession of pharmacy in the state on payment of prescribed fee is entitled for entry of names in the first register if he holds degree or diploma in pharmacy or pharmaceutical chemistry, or diploma in chemist and druggist of an Indian university or state government, or a qualification granted outside India and approved under section 14 by the Pharmacy Council of India. If he possesses any one of these 3 kinds of qualification, he is eligible for entering his name, registration his name into the first register. Or if the person holds any other degree, BA, BSc, whatever may be, any other degree other than pharmacy degree, with 3 years compounding experience in hospital or dispensary or any other place, then also he will be eligible for registration in the first register. Or if he holds state recognized compounder or dispenser's qualification, or if he engaged in compounding of drugs in a hospital or dispensary or any other place for more than 5 years, then he will be entitled for registration into the first register. This is about the registers which are maintained by the state governments. The central registers are maintained by the Pharmacy Council of India. That is a register of pharmacists. The central register is a register of pharmacists maintained in the prescribed manner by the Central Council under section 15A of the Pharmacy Act, and it is known as the Central Register. This contains names of all persons entered in register for states. The State Council supply the Central Council 5 copies of the register each year after 1st April, and All additions and other amendments are time to time informed by the Registrar of State Council to the Central Council. Accordingly, the Registrar of the Central Council registers names of persons in the Central Register. The Central Register is revised time to time and published in the official gazette. It is deemed to be a public document. Removal of names from the register. It is also the power of the state councils. After giving reasonable opportunity of being heard and after further inquiry if satisfied, the executive committee of the state council may order to remove name of a registered pharmacist from the register under the following conditions. If the name is entered by error or misrepresentation or by suppression of facts, if material facts are being suppressed, then the name of that person will be removed from the register. Or if convicted, if the person registered pharmacist is found to be convicted of any offense, or if it is found that he is guilty of any infamous professional conduct, then also his name will be removed. Or if any employee of that registered pharmacist is found to be convicted or guilty, as mentioned in 2 above, and if it is also found that this conviction or this guilt of that employee has been happened under the instigation of the registered pharmacist, then the registered pharmacist's name will be removed from the register. The removal may be permanent or for a certain period of times, and the order of removal should be confirmed by State Council and takes effect after 3 months of such confirmation. So executive committee will take the decision, then it will go to the State Council. If State Council confirmed this removal, then after 3 months of that confirmation, finally his name will be removed from the register. Aggrieved person may appeal before the government within 30 days. Removal shall be published in notification in the official gazette. Now it is the last chapter or chapter 5, which describes offences and penalties. Falsely claiming to be a registered pharmacist. If any person falsely claim to be a registered pharmacist, he shall be punishable to a fine up to rupees 500 on the first conviction and imprisonment up to 6 months, or fine up to rupees 1000, or with both on subsequent conviction. If anybody dispensing has been done by any unregistered person, he shall be punishable with imprisonment up to 6 months or fine up to rupees 1000, or with both. Now penalty for willful obstruction to an inspector. If anybody willfully obstruct an inspector under this act, he shall be punishable with imprisonment up to 6 months or fine up to rupees 1000, or with both. Failure to surrender certificate of registration. The registered pharmacist whose name has been removed from the register, he has to surrender the certificate of registration to the State Pharmacy Council. But if he fails to surrender the certificate of registration, he shall be punishable with fine up to rupees 50. This is all about the Pharmacy Act. So thank you.